Welcome to the Organic Chemistry Lab Safety Rules lecture. We have various safety equipment found around the lab. The personal protective equipment found in this lab is for your safety. The equipment that can be found includes a fire extinguisher, an eye wash fountain, a safety shower, fume hoods, and a first aid kit. It's important to know the location and proper way to use each of these personal protective equipment items. Here you see a panoramic shot of our lab. The first aid kit is located behind the whiteboard. You'll notice that there's a sign on the top of the whiteboard indicating its location. The safety shower is located in the northwest corner of the lab, and it's found there in yellow. The fume hoods, there are 12 fume hoods for the students to use, and then a 13th fume hood that we use for chemical distribution and waste. Almost all of our experiments are done in the fume hoods with the air being sent outside so that we have a safe working environment. The eye wash fountain is located underneath the safety shower, and the fire extinguisher is located in the hall outside of the lab. Here you see a close-up picture of the safety shower in the eye wash. To operate the safety shower, you just pull down on the triangle handle there, and water is going to come out extremely fast. If you need to make use of the safety shower, you pull down on the handle, and as the water comes out, you rub the affected area, basically pseudo-washing it. You will need to remove affected clothing, but you do not want to pull it up over your head, because by pulling it up over your head, you could spread the chemicals out. So it's much safer to just cut any material, cut any shirts and such off. The eye wash is located underneath it. To operate the eye wash, you just press forward on the handle. Now, it has little covers on it that you can see there that automatically pop off. If you need to make use of the eye wash fountain, you'll just put your eyes down into the liquid, holding the eyes open to make sure that the water reaches the affected eyes. Now, exposure to chemicals does not equal using a chemical. Exposure is when a chemical gets into one or more of the systems in your body. It is possible and ideal to use chemicals safely without exposure. Now, the various means of exposure include absorption, which just means getting the chemical in your eyes or on your skin, ingestion, which is eating the chemical, inhalation, which is breathing the chemical into your lungs, and injection, which means puncturing the skin so that chemicals can directly enter into the bloodstream. Many of our rules are designed to limit exposure to chemicals via these four means. Now, as far as absorption goes, we need to protect our eyes at all times. To do that, we're going to wear chemical splash safety goggles at all times while in the lab room. If you need a goggle break, for example, if your goggles are fogging up, leave the lab room for a brief period of time. Now, as far as clothing goes, clothing must conform to the Harding University dress code. Shirts and blouses with open midriffs, open-toed shoes, shorts, or short skirts are not allowed. You basically want to be as covered as much as possible. Dress for lab by thinking less skin exposure is best. Now, we always want to wash things properly. If you get a chemical on your skin, you want to wash it off immediately with water. We need to always assume the chemical that you get on your skin is hazardous, and we want to wash with copious amounts of water. The standard is to hold it under the water for 15 minutes. We also want to maintain a clean workspace. We want to practice good chemical hygiene. We want to clean up spills on the balances, fume hoods, floors, and benches immediately. To clean a spill, you want to rinse with water several times to remove any chemical films or residue. At the end of lab, you always want to wipe down your hood area and the bench area so that the next lab doesn't have to deal with your mess. Now, as far as ingestion goes, the biggest issue is going to be with your hands. You want to wash your hands with soap and water at the end of each lab, even if you don't think you've been exposed to chemicals. You also want to wash anytime you leave the lab room. For example, when you're heading to chapel, you want to stop by the restroom and wash your hands with soap and water. No food is allowed in the lab, all right? And we don't at any point want to taste the chemicals. Now, we also don't want to put any glassware in our mouths, and we want to avoid wiping our mouth with our hands during lab. The other big issue is going to come from pens. A lot of times people use their pens and then they start to kind of chew on the end of their pen. And we want to be careful with that because that's a way that we can ingest it as well. We want to avoid smells. We never smell chemicals directly. We always waft the odor to our nose if we have to smell the chemical. We're also going to make use of our fume hoods. All right. I know it says here that we're going to use fume hoods for any reaction that produces vapors. We're going to end up doing about 95% of our lab work in the fume hoods. Ideally, you never want to have the sash open more than 15 inches when the fume hood is running so that you get proper airflow through the hood. We have to be careful with chemicals being injected in our skin. Now, this most commonly happens by glassware breaking and then the glass going into our skin, carrying the chemical with it. Now, to minimize injection, we want to wear closed-toed shoes that cover the entire foot. The general rule is you want to be able to sprint in whatever shoes you're wearing. And we always want to dispose of any chipped or broken glassware by putting it in the glass trash can or giving it to the lab assistant. With the round bottom glassware, the thing we have to watch out for the most are star cracks. They're little star-shaped cracks that show up in the glassware. Do not use any chipped glassware or glassware with star cracks in it. Now, backpacks are a tripping hazard and they need to be left in the pre-lab room or in the lab periphery. In our lab in 179, just leave them at the tables in the center. Horseplay will not be tolerated. Horseplay, pranks, or any other non-standard behavior is indication that the lab is not being taken seriously. And so that will be, you'll immediately just get a grade of 0 on that lab and be kicked out. Never use open flames near any flammable liquids, such as acetone or alcohol. We'll rarely use open flames, and if we do, we're going to make sure that we use them in a protected environment. We want to handle glass tubing, including thermometers, with care. And we always want to lubricate glass tubing with glycerin and shield our hands with a towel before inserting into a stopper. And I'll show you the proper way to do that. One of the most common injuries is when you take a glass tubing and you try and put it through the stopper and then it ends up going into your hand. And always don't use thermometers as stirring rods. You want to tie back long hair to keep it out of the chemicals and flames. And you want to be aware of what your neighbors are doing. If your neighbors are practicing unsafe techniques, you're the one that's most likely going to be injured. All right, this is similar to the idea of practicing defensive driving. Never perform unauthorized experiments. And you're never allowed in the chemical stockroom or the chemical vault. If you need something from the stockroom, just ask the TA or myself and we'll get it for you. You're also not allowed in the laboratory rooms outside of regular lab times without permission from me. I always want to know if you're working in the lab. So if you need to do something outside of normal lab times, come and talk to me first. Prevent gas leaks by making sure the gas stopcocks are turned off when not in use. Report any accidents, no matter how small, to the lab instructor or to the teaching assistant. We have a binder that we'll record all accidents into, and that includes cuts, burns, or any chemical exposure that causes skin discoloration or a burning sensation. Don't throw solids away in the sinks. There'll always be a halogenated waste solid container, a non-halogenated waste solid container, and then some things we can just throw in the trash can, but just know where it's supposed to go. That includes matches, paper towels, weighing paper, and of course chemicals. Broken glass must not be placed in the regular trash can. Any sharp object placed in those trash cans are a potential hazard, so we want to dispose of broken glass in the designated receptacles near each door. A dustpan and broom is available near the refrigerator to help you clean up any mess. Do not pour organic compounds like isopropanol, toluene, etc. down the drain. All liquid waste needs to go into the appropriate waste containers. We'll have a liquid halogenated waste container and a liquid non-halogenated waste container. Use your reagents correctly and economically. Collect only the exact amount of reagent you need and return with it to your bench. Never return unused reagents to the stock bottle. And don't use your own pipette directly pipette from a stock reagent bottle. When you need liquid chemicals or solutions, you want to pour from the stock bottles into a beaker or a graduated cylinder and then return to your lab area. Don't add deionized water from the deionized water fountain directly to chemicals or solutions. We actually don't have a deionized water spigot in our lab because we don't really need deionized water. But the principle still holds. Don't just go and hold the beaker with your reaction mixture under the sink and turn on the water. Always take the water, put it into a secondary container, and then pour from that into your experiment. Don't pick up reagent bottles using the stopper or cap. Use it from the side, or pick it up from the side and use two hands to pick it up. The plastic caps have a tendency to disintegrate over time. Don't crowd around the stock reagent bottles. And quickly as is safely possible, pour from the bottle into your own container and return to your lab station to work with the chemical. After cleaning your glassware and your lab counter, return all equipment to your lab drawer, the common equipment cupboard, or other designated area before leaving lab. It's important that we maintain a clean and safe working environment. Work on your own unless you are otherwise instructed to do so. And safety data sheets are on file for all chemicals used in the chemistry labs at Harding University. We keep them in the Pryor England Science Building, room 134, and you are free to view these, but please do not remove them from the safety laboratory. We can also look them up online if you want to look at one while we're in lab. Alright, so to finish up, after you've watched this video, complete the safety quiz located on Canvas, and then after you've successfully passed that quiz, you'll digitally sign the last question indicating that you have been properly trained in the safety procedures of the organic laboratory. Hope you have a great day!